Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. Julian here for another waiver wire video. This is the waiver wire video for week 14 of the fantasy hockey season. Before we get started, guys, I want to wish you all a happy and healthy new year. I hope you had a wonderful and happy holidays. I hope everything went great. I hope you were able to relax a little bit, have a little bit of fun, eat a little bit too much. And now we've snapped back to reality. But guys, week 14 is an important one, obviously, just like every other week, to make sure that you get into a spot to make the playoffs and win your fantasy hockey trophy. If you haven't already, guys, leave a like and hit that subscribe button, and consider going down in the description below and checking out my Patreon. It's really cheap and there's some really nice perks to being a patron, like being able to DM with me one-on-one, and I answer any questions that you have at pretty much all times. Let's jump into it now. Let's take a look at the week 14 schedule, and let's take a look. Monday, there's 4 games. Tuesday, 10. Wednesday, 3. Thursday, 13. Friday, 2. Saturday, 16. And Sunday, 2. So the busy nights are fairly busy, whereas the off nights are really not. So it's definitely important to prioritize off night players this week, because your busy nights are likely pretty full. Maybe not Tuesday, but the other ones are probably pretty full, especially Saturday, since, you know, every single team in the league is actually playing this Saturday. No promises here, but if all goes to plan, Max and I might do a live stream on Friday to help you guys set your lineups and choose which players you should be starting and which players you should be sitting. So the teams with a good schedule are the Dallas Stars, Minnesota Wild, and Philadelphia Flyers, because all 3 of those teams play 3 off nights, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So having players from those teams this week is going to tremendously increase your chance of winning this week. Colorado and Rangers are also some pretty good teams to be streaming players from, because they do have 2 off nights. Colorado Monday and Wednesday, so that's a good streamer for the early part of the week. And the Rangers, I'm not necessarily recommending streaming because they play Monday and Sunday, but if you do have Rangers players like a Panarin or a Zibanejad or a Kreider, you're definitely going to have a better week. Teams with a bad schedule are the Carolina Hurricanes, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the New Jersey Devils. All 3 of these teams only play 2 games, and none of those teams play a game on an off night. So it's 2 games only and 2 busy nights, which is not ideal. All right, let's take a look at some forward options that you can consider streaming. And first on the list is Matt Duchene, who's playing super well on that line with Seguin and Marchment. And he's got those off nights this week for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Definitely can't go wrong with streaming Duchene if you're in a shallow league and he's available. Nick Suzuki at 65% rostered is having an insane season. He's a top 80, top 100 minimum player in all leagues, and he's definitely lighting it up. Definitely showing no signs of stopping right now. Suzuki is an excellent player to add to your team if somehow he's available. Blake Coleman is someone who's really surprised me this year. He's playing a lot better than I expected him to start the year, and he's continuously producing. I'm not sure if that's going to last forever, but as of right now, as long as he's putting up the points seemingly every single night, Blake Coleman's someone that you can be adding to your team. Next on this list is Jake DeBrusk, who's currently playing on the line with Marchand and Charlie Coyle, and finally it seems like maybe he's turned things around. Over his last 4 games, he's got 6 points, and he's finally showing some fantasy value. Fingers crossed that this continues, because Jake DeBrusk is a pretty good player and definitely merits to be added right now while he's playing well. Rickard Rakell is another guy who I like right now a lot, playing on the top line with Crosby and Gensel, and he's playing pretty well. He really sucked before getting injured, but since coming back from injury, he's putting up plenty of points and has been a pretty good presence on any fantasy team. Next is Tyler Seguin of the Dallas Stars, 37% rostered. He's been pretty solid on that line with Duchene and Marchment. And with those off nights this week, I couldn't not include him here. Definitely a solid streamer if you need someone for those off nights. Max Pacioretty, I'm including him here once again, finally back from that injury. His first game back, only played like 11 minutes of ice time, didn't get any power play time. That's not going to be indicative of what he's going to get going forward, guys. Obviously, they want to ease this guy in. He's got injury issues. He's finally back from injury. I guarantee you he's going to be seeing top power play time soon and top 6 minutes. Pacioretty is a dude that can score plenty of goals, someone that you should be adding right now before it's too late. Sean Couturier of the Philadelphia Flyers has a solid schedule this week on the top line and top power play in Philadelphia. With those off nights, hard to resist passing up on Sean Couturier. Gustav Nyquist is someone who I like a lot this week. He's turning it back on, scoring points left and right. He went for a little bit of a quiet slump, but he was doing the same thing earlier in the year on that line with Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly getting top power play time as well. Pretty hard to resist a guy who's consistently putting up points and is getting great deployment. Ryan Hartman is someone who I like for those off nights, playing the second line right now with Marco Rossi in Minnesota. The deployment is finally back to being decent for Hartman, and for the off nights, I definitely don't mind streaming him. Joel Farabee was someone who was getting third line time in Philadelphia, but he played so well that he played himself onto the top line now with Konechny and Couturier. Definitely a very solid streamer for this week where the Philadelphia Flyers have those 3 off nights. Next is my MANSAPED must-add player of the video, Mason Marchment. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code word FANTASYTIPPED at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code word FANTASYTIPPED. Happy New Year to your balls. Now, why is Mason Marchment my MANSAPED must-add player of the video? Well, off nights this week are super important, and Marchment is available in 84% of leagues. He's a dude who recently scored a hat trick and is consistently producing on that very good line with Duchesne and Seguin. He's definitely someone who needs to be added this week. Even if he exploded only one of those 3 off nights, he's absolutely worth it, and he's a dude who absolutely can explode just like he just did recently with that hat trick. Next, I have Marcus Foligno of the Minnesota Wild, 12% rostered, is currently injured, but it seems to be a lingering issue, nothing too serious, so I'm not overly worried about that. He gets decent deployment and puts up a pretty safe floor with hits and with shots. And if you want to stream someone for the off nights, Foligno is definitely not a bad ad. And if you have extra ads to use this current week that you're watching it in, you can stash them on an IR spot and you don't have to drop anyone and just keep them for next week, which might not be a terrible option. Marco Rossi of the Minnesota Wild, 11% rostered, is also a good option, playing on the second line in Minnesota with Ryan Hartman, getting top power play time as well right now. Rossi's definitely someone who can put up points and is a good option for those off nights. Joy, the same kind of thing. He's been playing very well on that top line with McKinnon and is also playing on that top power play in Colorado, and recently has been putting up plenty of points. And remember, those Colorado Avalanche do have off nights Monday and Wednesday next week, so definitely if you're planning on streaming Drouin, Alexander Kerfoot's another pretty good option right now. He had a hot streak earlier in the season, cooled down, and now he's hot again, but the difference is that his deployment right now is actually really good. He's getting top line minutes alongside Keller and Schmaltz on the top line and top power play in Arizona, so as long as he keeps that deployment, he can keep up the production. Marcus Johansson is someone who I do like right now, playing in the top 6 in Minnesota and getting top power play time sometimes based on who's injured. But he's definitely someone right now who's decently hot and is owned in only 5% of leagues, which means he's available in 95% of leagues. Definitely a pretty good low-key streamer for next week. Ryan McLeod and Warren Foegele are both guys who are playing with Leon Draisaitl right now on the second line in Edmonton. Both are decently hot right now. Foegele had a 5-point night, and McLeod has gotten quite a few 2-point nights as well. Both guys, as long as they're decently warm like they are right now, I don't mind streaming them in deep leagues. Morgan Frost is another deep league type of guy. He's playing second line minutes. He's also getting top power play time for the most part in Philadelphia. If you're in a super deep league, I definitely don't mind streaming him for those off nights. And finally, Teddy Bluger. I kind of just wanted to shout out this guy because he's been playing super well, and he was just demoted to the fourth line, which makes no sense. And then he still goes out and gets 3 points in a night, which is absolutely crazy. And he's still playing on that third line right now with Dakota Joshua, Connor Garland. It's pretty good deployment, and as long as he's producing, guys, he's honestly a decent option. He's owned in 0% of leagues right now. Go ahead and check that game log. The dude is producing, and I definitely don't mind adding him. When it comes to defensemen, Thomas Chabot is a priority must-add right now, getting top power play time in Ottawa, and through 2 games already has 3 assists. If he's not rostered in your league, make sure to do so now because it's going to be your last chance. He's a very, very, very solid defenseman. Gustav Forling's another guy who I like quite a bit right now, putting up points, putting up some decent peripherals, and right now he's playing the best out of any defenseman in Florida. Definitely not a bad ad there. Brock Faber is someone who hasn't been that great lately, but Spurgeon has gone and re-injured himself. That has been the story of Jared Spurgeon this season. Unfortunately, he's a great defenseman, but can't do anything when he's not playing. Brock Faber is back to being that top power play guy in Minnesota, and therefore has a decent amount of value. Thomas Harley is someone who's not getting top power play time in Dallas, but has been producing consistently, and what more, he's actually giving himself a decent amount of a floor lately as well, with some shots, hits, and blocks. I like Harley quite a bit right now, and especially if you need a defenseman for the off night, definitely not a bad option. Ivan Provorov is someone who has 2 points in his last 3 games, and with Werenski out long-term once again, Provorov is back to being the top power play guy in Columbus, and definitely not a terrible option. He's available in 80% of leagues. Jamie Drysdale is playing top power play in Anaheim. Is playing pretty decently as well. Definitely don't mind that ad. Brant Clark was just called up in LA. I haven't seen him play yet, or I don't even know if he's going to play. But if he does, Brant Clark has an absurd amount of talent, and if he somehow gets top power play time, this dude is definitely going to produce. But right now, he's just a speculative ad. Cam York, 6% rostered, is a top power play guy in Philly. They have the off nights this week. I don't hate that ad. Kalen Addison's a top power play guy in San Jose. Obviously, San Jose sucks, but the opportunity for points is still there if you're in a super deep league. And then Chris Tanev, someone who I'm liking a lot right now, because there's a lot of points-based leagues out there where blocks are worth quite a bit, like 1 point, 1.5 points sometimes. Chris Tanev has been averaging recently like 5 blocks or more a night, which is absolutely crazy. So if your blocks are worth 1 point, which is not unheard of, you're getting 5 points right there. Don't mind that if you are in a deep league. And if you're in a Cats league, you can just stream him for the blocks. As far as goalies go, Peter Kochetkov still the number 1 guy in Carolina, although Frederik Andersen will be coming back maybe by the end of the month. Marc-Andre Fleury is the number 1 guy right now in Minnesota because Gustafsson is injured for at least the next week, so Fleury is definitely a viable streamer for at least 1 week for you guys. Joey Daccord obviously has been super bulk added because he has been fantastic. Is the guy getting almost all the starts in Seattle, and it looks to have passed Grubauer. Even when Grubauer comes back, Decord's probably the guy in Seattle. Scott Wedgwood, 54% rostered, is the guy right now in Dallas. We don't know when Ottinger is coming back. The coach seems to think he's further away than he is closer, so Wedgwood will continue to get the starts in Dallas until Ottinger is ready. Martin Jones is playing fantastic in Toronto. Just played back-to-back games and had a shutout and then a 1 goal allowed game. So Martin Jones, as much as I've not liked him in the past and told you he's a not very good goalie, right now he's playing fantastically, and it's hard to ignore. Definitely someone you need to be adding right now. Alex Lyon is the starting goalie in Detroit. They don't want to start Reimer any more than they have to. Reimer was awful whenever they started him, so Lyon is their guy right now. Nico Dawes is someone who's kind of surged up to 20% rostered right away. He's played a couple games, played pretty well those couple games, and it seems like he's in a timeshare with Vitek Vanacek right now in New Jersey. So why not grab him? Especially if you're a Vanacek owner, he's getting half the starts. You might as well grab him, and he's playing better right now. Alex Nedeljkovic, someone you definitely need to keep your eye on because he seems to be taking away the starting job from Tristan Jarry. He's playing very well. I have Pens fans, friends who are really, really high on him right now. So Alex Nedeljkovic is definitely someone, if you own Jarry, you need to be adding, and even otherwise, he seems to be taking the starting position. Joel Hofer, someone you want to be keeping an eye on as well. Looking pretty good. Playing just as good, if not better, than Binnington. So definitely someone who might be taking over as that starting goalie fairly soon. Lucas Distel in Anaheim just had an insane game, set a franchise record for number of saves. It was in the 50s. Absolutely insane that they actually managed to lose that game to Toronto, but Distel is someone who's probably going to get some more looks going forward after a game like that. I would say he might get into a timeshare with Gibson, which would definitely help his value, and especially if Gibson gets traded, Distel is going to have even more value going forward. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. I hope you enjoyed the content today. If you did, please drop a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.